Holy shit, there's so many fucking cars. You ever watch something that, on paper, should absolutely not work, but then it somehow grabs you by the throat and politely asks you to keep watching anyway? That's Angels of Death. Or, as I like to call it, emotionally unstable teenagers and one extremely committed serial killer play the world's worst escape room. So let's get this out of the way first. I love this show. I love this show so much, I'm not even going to go on an episode-by-episode basis, because you should be watching it right now. That's how much I like it. And this work of art is incredible in so many ways that really this review was made partly because I'm going to mention them as best I can. Oh, and to actually answer the statement I made in the title, or something or whatever. So if you came here looking for anything else, still keep watching, I need to grow this channel. But seriously, this series at times is not revolutionary. Sometimes it's not particularly subtle. And during certain parts, it feels like it was written by someone who just discovered what edgy means and spammed it into the character generator. And yet, you will probably keep watching. Not entirely because it's perfect, though it's pretty close, but because it knows exactly how to manipulate you into caring. Now, if it wasn't clear before, we're gonna be getting into heavy spoilers here, folks. You've been tickled. We start with Rachel, a girl who wakes up in a mysterious building with no memory, no context, and most importantly, no visible emotional range. She speaks like she's permanently buffering. Then she meets Zach. Zach is a bandaged, scythe-wielding murderer who sounds like he gargles gravel for breakfast and considers screaming a valid form of communication. Which, to be fair for him, it kinda is. Naturally, they form a partnership. And let me just interject and say here, these two are the life, blood, and soul of this show. Their bond and feelings are so beautiful and complex that it engaged me completely. Now, is part of my love for the show because I want to fuck Zach's brains out? No. It's because I want Zach to fuck my brains out. Anyway, if you're thinking, wow, this sounds like a deeply stable and healthy dynamic, congratulations! You're already picking up on the tone of the show. But where the plot really gets started is in the promise Rachel makes with Zach shortly after meeting him, and almost, dying to him. Because as soon as Rachel woke up, she was frightened and confused, but upon seemingly learning that her parents are dead, she turns into the aforementioned monotonous monotoner, and she asks Zach to kill her. Here's where the show plays its first big trick. Zach, being a completely reasonable individual, says, "Alrighty, sure, once we escape." And just like that, the entire show locks into place. That's the hook. Oh, and the mystery of the building. Oh, and the floor-by-floor bosses. Oh, and even the horror elements too. But throughout it all, it's the promise that rings in their ears. And yours. A simple, deeply questionable agreement that becomes the emotional backbone of the entire story. And the weird part? It works. Because the show doesn't treat this like a joke. It commits hard. And you see it more and more as each floor introduces a new character. And every single one of them feels like they escaped from a different genre entirely. On the first floor past Zach's, you've got a creepy doctor who definitely violates at least 12 ethical guidelines before breakfast. A child who is somehow the most emotionally well-adjusted person in the building, which is not a compliment. A priest who took one look at morality and decided to freestyle it. Also, he can fuck me too. And Kathy. I like Kathy. But each of these characters exist for one purpose, to challenge Rachel and Zach. Not physically, emotionally. Well, also physically. There's a lot of attempted murder, but you get the idea. And through this, the show earns even more of your investment, slowly but surely. Here's the thing that Angels of Death understands better than it has any right to. Complex writing is only able to make people care if you do it right. You just need consistency. Rachel wants to die, Zach wants to kill her. And the show never forgets that. Sometimes it can even become a bit tiresome with how Rachel pesters him about it and they remind each other why they're doing this. But it all got me to care about them regardless. Every conversation, every conflict, every weirdly philosophical tangent about sin and punishment, it all circles back to that one promise. And over time, that promise stops feeling like a gimmick. It starts feeling like a bond, which is why you end up caring anyway. Rachel, at first, feels almost intentionally empty. But as the show goes on, you start to realize she's not empty. She's just broken in a very specific way. And Zach is pure. Pure, loud, impulsive chaos. But underneath that, he's weirdly straightforward. Honest, even. I mean, after all, he hates liars. Which creates this bizarre dynamic where the serial killer is the emotionally transparent one, and the quiet girl is the one hiding everything. And somehow, again, it just works. Because at some point, usually around halfway through, you're going to notice something unsettling. You care about these two. Not in a they're good people way, but in a please don't emotionally destroy each other kind of way. And that's the show's biggest trick. Because then it hit me. I'm rooting for two people who are absolutely wrong for each other. I'm cheering on the objective bad guys of this story. Yeah, they're in a shit place surrounded by worse people, but these two are murderers. People who have and will commit heinous atrocities for their own selfish reasons. I shouldn't want them to win, but I do. Because they have things to lose. They have reasons to win. And above all, they have each other. Maybe I'm just a sap for when two underdogs get to come out on top, but Rachel and Zach have been on the back foot their whole lives. Zach came from an abusive and awful foster family, which might have even been better than his original family. Rachel comes from a similarly abusive background where her father and mother hated each other until her dad killed her mom. And Rachel killed him. A lot happened there. But then, these two both just kept killing. Rachel stitches her victims into the shape she wants them to be after death so that she can keep them as her own. Zach murders because it's twisted and fun. He revels in it. Yet, by the time I reached the credits, I was crying for them. Two people who didn't get the help and therapy they desperately needed, but found each other instead. They might not have gotten to atone for their sins, but in the end they realized they didn't need that, and that it didn't matter. They don't need a god to believe that they're right and pure. They just need to live the life they want now, which is how they escape their mental shackles as well as the confines of this murder labyrinth. And there's something so gorgeous about that freedom they obtain that all the messages just cover up the baseline you know to be wrong. This isn't a show like Death Note where you know Light is the villain and the show will make you want to see what happens anyway. It genuinely has you glued to your couch hoping they make it. It doesn't make you love the world or the story exclusively. It makes you love the connection, and the rest comes by proxy of the fact that those things interact wonderfully with the characters throughout their journey. Because in a story filled with manipulation, madness, religion, and moral ambiguity, their relationship is the only thing that stays consistent. Now, to be clear, like I said, this show isn't perfect. The dialogue can get aggressively theatrical, and some moments feel like they were written during a caffeine-fueled philosophy binge. However, it's still one of the best anime I've ever seen. There are speeches in this show that don't just chew the scenery, they eat the entire set, the lighting rig, and possibly the camera operator, in the best way possible. Because weirdly enough, that's also part of the charm. And did it stick the landing? Absolutely. The ending leans heavily into ambiguity in every way that matters while delivering some solid endings to the cast as well. Danny dies never reaching those fucking beepers, having not filled the bottomless pit of desire he fell into. Eddie and Kathy got to firmly scold Rachel for what they considered to be her wrongdoings. And my second favorite character, Gray, got to finally end his fucked up experiments having been completely satisfied by the people Rachel and Zach became. Two sinners, reinvented by their own self-actualization. There's some things left unattended for, which is a polite way of saying you will have questions. But thematically, it lands, because it stays true to the core idea, that promise. No matter how strange things get, the show never lets go of it. Angels of Death is great because it understands something simple. If you give the audience something to hold on to, something consistent, something emotional, they'll follow you through almost anything, even a building full of murderers. Even a premise that, by all logic, should fall apart immediately. It tricks you with grim brilliance, with dark complexity, but most importantly, with commitment. And before you realize it, you've watched and loved Angels of Death. But seriously, how did they get food? Did Gray go out and buy some? Like, he's just a regular guy? Or is that... I didn't really understand that part. Can someone explain it to me?